Madin Mazimba, I'm back again, and today I'm sharing with you my views and thoughts on Tanto Wavie's latest project titled Sungura Museve. Now, Tanto Wavie has been pushing this sound which is termed Trap Su for quite some time now. My first encounter with Trap Su was on the track John Chibadura a couple of years back. Then prior to this album, he released the track John Villigate, a track which I definitely enjoyed, and a track which got me hooked into this Trap Su sound. Now I wanted to see how was he going to push, how was he going to develop this sound going forward in his career. Now, I know right now a number of him are confused. What is Trap Su? What is Trap Sungura? Now, from my understanding, from listening to Tanto Wavie's music, Trap Su is a mixture between trap music and Sungura music. Now, Tanto Wavie just took the trap music that you already know and loved by many and is fusing it with some characteristics, attributes from Sungura music. Now, take for example the track John Villigate. If you look at that track, the production, the arrangement, the instrumental arrangement, it definitely follows the typical, the modern trap music that a lot of people already love. But then when you go to the vocals, the way the vocals are arranged, the choice of words, the way Tanto Wavie was pronouncing some of these words, and also this carefree attitude that he had throughout that track, it definitely reminded me of the late great System Tajida. You could see he took his inspiration from System Tajida. Now, going to this album, I definitely wanted to see how many more artists was he going to take inspiration from, what more attributes and characteristics was he going to take from the Sungura sound. Now, having listened to this album, I have to say, I definitely got again some System Tajida vibes throughout this project. On tracks such as China Nepi, and on a lot of the tracks on this album, you get that carelessness, that carefree kind of vibe. I got to feel it on quite a lot of the tracks on this album. And another artist which I felt is sort of like took inspiration from was Leonard Dembo. Also in terms of the vocals, there are certain times, certain verses or certain choruses, sometimes but no feel like, okay, I think he definitely not channeled, he definitely took inspiration from Leonard Dembo. But as I listen to this album as a whole, the inspirations, the way he was fusing Sungura of the trap, it was not really as hard-hitting or sometimes as clearly evident as it did on his past tracks such as John Villigate. But if you really listen deep, you get to find some of those attributes scattered throughout all of the tracks on this album. Now, another thing that it definitely sort of took from Sungura was the guitar work. Sungura guitar, the heart of Sungura music is with the guitars. Now on this album, you get to see it definitely incorporated a lot of guitar work on this album. I definitely wished he would have used a session guitarist throughout the tracks. Get tracks such as Msaperere Pavana, tracks such as 007. As I was listening to those tracks, especially on those parts where that synthesized guitar, those solo kind of parts, I couldn't help imagine it. If it was a session guitarist, this would have been even more special. But I have to give it to the producer. They incorporated the synth guitar quite well. Now, in terms of the production is done quite well throughout this album. And a lot of the tracks, I have to admit, they definitely have a familiar feel. They sound quite, in a way, they sort of end up sounding quite the same. It was more like, the template that was used throughout this album is just basically one template and and I usually complain about this. We get projects where an artist is basically it's sort of like one long song into little bits and pieces. But I have to say, on this project, Tanto Wavie and the production team, they really executed it very, very well. For me, it never really got boring. You never really go to the point of being boring, probably because this is sort of like a new sound which is pioneering. So it was quite interesting for me, and whatever they did, it definitely worked. Despite a number of the tracks sounding similar, you can be mistaken for some tracks. Yeah, so track here was this is the other one. But I have to say they definitely executed it very well, and that is, like I said, it very much helped by the fact that this is sort of like a new sound which Tanto is pushing. But in terms of the production, overall production throughout this album, I have to say the production team, they did a very, very good job. I definitely find no fault in terms of the production throughout this album. And one other thing that this album definitely nails, I think that's also another thing that that made me overlook the fact that the album sometimes feels like one long song, is that the overall vibe of this album is on point. I have to say the vibe is definitely correct with this one. You know, I remember a couple of, I think it was last year or 2 years back, someone was asking on Twitter, what do you value the most when it comes to music? When it comes to a song, what are the first things, what are the things that you value the most? And for me, I said it was the vibe and the rhythm of a track. Those things, they matter to me way more than all the other attributes. Not put my attributes are anabasa, but they just matter to me more. They're quite intangible, but you know, the vibe, how does the track make me feel? When I'm listening to a certain song, how does it make me feel? For me, that's how I define the vibe. The rhythm, does it move me? You know, we get to have certain tracks I put like house music, there's instrumental house music, which is not gonna any vocal at all, but that track can get people dancing like crazy because the rhythm of that track is just spot on. The vibe is spot on. How it makes people feel, you know what, and it definitely moves the people. You end up walk to tamba. And for me, those intangible things, they are very much important whenever I'm listening to any piece of music, because you know, I can listen to music from an artist and a salificator or anyone from all over the world. But if those two attributes are on point, I'm definitely going to enjoy listening to that track. Even if I don't even know what the artist is singing about, the vibe and the rhythm, if they are all on point, you know, I'll definitely be a fan. Maybe the meaning knows each other later. What were they singing about? For me, there are a lot of tracks that I love, which I'm not really sure what were the artists singing about, but I love the tracks to beats. So when it comes to the vibe, I have to say the vibe is definitely correct with this album. Tanto Wavie. This album sort of like gets into this sort of laid back kind of mood, which is quite unique given with trap music. You know, it's hyped, it's overly hyped, you know, it's music, yeah, you know, there are a lot of energy, but like I said, that carefree attitude, that element that is sort of like borrowed from, like I said, System Tajida. A lot of the tracks, despite the trap elements, you know, at the heart of them, they are not that rushed, they are not that askumanya, you know, they are in a way a bit laid back. And for me, you know, it made me enjoy listening to this album quite a lot, because the tracks, they have that sort of laid back kind of feeling, not at the core, at the heart of them. And like I said, the vibe, the rhythm, they are all on point. And this is one of those albums, I did not expect any of the tracks on this album to like jump out and become like a top track by my charts. I don't see any track, it may happen, but I don't really see any track out of jumping out to a such a mega hit. But what they did is that this album is quite well balanced. You can definitely listen to this album, from the first track to the last track. You know, it's definitely well balanced. The tracks are balanced, the production is well balanced, and that familiarity, that similarity between the tracks, it just flows from one track to the next track, and that laid back vibe, you know, it's one of those albums you're not having a good time with the guys, you can just put on this album. I'm saying but you just want some good music. This is definitely the album to feel that for it. So I have to say, you know, the vibe is definitely correct with this album. Now, in terms of the themes and the vocals, in terms of the themes, you know, Tanto tackled those, you know, these topics that you definitely expect from probably trap music. There are some relationship, a number of love and relationship tracks, a few motivational tracks. I think a few tracks that really motivate you, like you know, some social commentary in a way, tracks such as Anatakura. You know, he tackled quite a number of themes. I don't really expect this album to be that, to be a very, very deep or thought-provoking album, and you know, it definitely did what I expected from it. Now, in terms of the vocals, Tanto Wavie delivered a solid performance throughout this whole project. Like I said, him channeling na system Tajina na Dembo, you know, also sprinkling his own type of vocal. You know, I have to say, in terms of the vocals, he was solid throughout this whole project. So I have to say, in a summary, that is it for this album, Trap Sungura. I definitely enjoyed listening to this album. Like I said, it's not an album I expect to see maybe this track or that track going on top of the charts, but it's an album if you listen to it, you just enjoy this album. Like, yeah, this is quite a nice album to listen to. You can just let it play. It's quite a well-balanced project. So I've definitely enjoyed listening to this album, and I think in terms of hip-hop, this is one of the better projects that I've listened to in this year 2021. My overall rating for this album, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's quite a solid 7. The production is on point, the vocals are on point. Like I said, the vibe is definitely correct with this one. And Tanto, he definitely took time to master his sound. That's something that I definitely respect. He took this album to really push, to really showcase Pashika when it comes to mastering Trepsu, and he's done it very, very well. He was just showing you that Trepsu is definitely one of the best variations we have in hip-hop to date, and that definitely made me a fan of this whole album. Now, I know a number of you have managed to listen to this album. Go in the comment section, tell me what you think about the album. After that, just like the video, subscribe to the channel. See you again next time.